Hello and welcome. This is Physics 313. This is the first section of the first chapter. This is the playlist of the general recordings for all of the sections of Physics 313. You'll want to refer to your specific section and your specific section and structure for section policies as well as tests and info pertaining to that specific course. But in these videos, we're going to be going through the general lectures that can be applied to all the students. So yeah, obviously in the first chapter, there's a lot of intro material, and we want to really set the groundwork for what we mean by motion and get a good qualitative description of motion before we jump into the mathematics in chapter 2. What you'll also find in these, not only in these PowerPoints, but also at the beginning of each of these chapters is a set of 5 or 6 little summary features and little preview, excuse me, preview slides and of the different things you'll be covering. They're pretty helpful, always good to review. Specifically, this is the one that we'll start out with, what is motion? And in particular, we want to lay the groundwork for one of the goals of this chapter, which is a complete motion diagram. So obviously you see here we'll be defining other things, reminding ourselves what vectors are, units and sig figs, and then why is motion important? Well, obviously it's important for everything. Okay, so main types of motion that we're going to be observing in this course. Well, usually motion that you observe comes in different combinations of these more basic types, but the first one certainly is linear motion, moving in a straight line at constant speed. And then we'll also encounter circular motion, both in a horizontal circle or in a vertical circle, different applications of those. Projectile motion, right? If you throw a ball or throw an object into the air at a small enough speed, at a reasonably small distance, it will be in the shape of a parabola. You know, if you add air resistance or if it becomes too far, right? All of these different types of basic motion have higher order corrections that hopefully we'll deal with in the course of the chapters. And then one other important topic is rotational motion, when an object can rotate around some fixed axis on the object itself. But that is, you know, way until later, until chapter 12. So these are the basic types of motion. And we start with the idea of making a recording. I mean, we can all probably do this on our smartphones. There's probably an app out there where we can make a recording of an object moving by, and the recording will kind of overlay all the images on top of one another. The book, you know, the book actually has us go back and kind of consider the old-timey film strips that they would use for, you know, old motion pictures, and kind of cut the film strips out and then glue them on top of one another. And what you'll eventually see, you'll see the image of the object moving kind of overlaid, and it's an image of that at different objects in time. And this is pretty easy to accomplish on a smartphone with the right software. But this is the basic idea of a motion diagram. And you know, with it, we can even define our basic ideas of basic definitions of motion. For instance, when the object in this kind of film strip, overlay film strip, when the object is equally spaced, you have to remember that these images are always in equal intervals of time. And so you have, if they're equally spaced, that really defines constant speed for us. Technically, it's constant speed if it's moving in one direction. If it's moving at the same speed but changing direction, then that's a different type of motion. But motion in a straight line with constant speed would be described by this motion diagram. Furthermore, then we can define other things, other types of motion. Right here we see, like I said, we see constant speed defined where the image is equally spaced in equal time intervals. We can also define the concept of increasing speed. The book says speeding up, but that can often cause confusion when we're dealing with vertical motion. I will always say increasing or decreasing speed, so there's no confusion. So speeding up or increasing speed would be where the object, the distance between successive images of the objects gets further and further apart. And so obviously we see here that the runner is increasing speed with the distance between successive images being larger. And then turn that around, you know, an object slowing down, again, decreasing speed would be a better way to describe it. Decreasing speed are when those images get closer and closer together. And eventually rest, you know, rest is kind of the zeroth definition here, where all the images are technically all overlaid on top of one another. So being this is a first section, this is the end of it. In the next few videos, we'll unpack this idea of a motion diagram a little bit more, adding some more mathematical layers to it to eventually make a complete motion diagram. But until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.